Welcome to the Bitchin' Siblings Podcast.
And I know it's in the middle of the day, but...
Well, welcome everyone to the Bitchin' Siblings Podcast. It's just Ginny and I this week. I'm sorry we teased you with Chris week one out of the gate, and he has not joined us since. He's too cool for us. Let's be real. Fears and phobias. So let me start off by asking you, what is your biggest fear?
Helicopters.
That's your biggest fear? Like, I mean, I know it's a big fear of yours, but like,
oh, absolutely.
That's the biggest?
The sound that the helicopters make, especially the military ones, the chopping noise, it anxiety attack every single time. I have to turn music on, put headphones on. I have to, like, my husband's even gotten into the mind frame of when he starts to hear one, he'll start talking really loud about just stupid stuff, not even necessarily to me, but just talking out loud and just speaking loud. The chopping noise is we grew up prior to being adopted on a military base, and that noise is just an anxiety inducing noise.
Have you ever figured out like what happened surrounding those noises that caused that?
No, I don't, because I don't ever really remember being near helicopters. I just think that noise was just always present on the base often. And so unfortunately, my brain just kind of correlates that noise with that really turbulent time in our life. And it just sparks anxiety attacks, stress. Like I start to breathe heavy. It's bad. Yeah. So like out of everything in this world, that is my biggest fear. And it is a irrational fear. And I don't know what I'm fearful of, because it's not like something, I'm not afraid of the actual helicopter. It's just that noise is mentally, it's just too much for me to take.
All right.
Right? Weird, huh?
I mean, like I said, I knew that was a fear of yours, but I did not know that would be your number one.
Oh, absolutely. Number one.
So my number one is snakes. And like you, there's no legitimate, I mean, there's a reason why I'm scared of snakes, but like there's no legitimate, I've never really encountered any snake that's actually harmful to me. Like we've said before, we grew up in Washington. Western Washington didn't have really venomous snakes, so we didn't have like rattlesnakes, and you know it was too wet. It was not warm enough for their body temperatures or whatever. Snakes. Yeah, and so when I was shortly after we moved in with Grandma, I don't know where Chris got it, but Chris found a garter snake and he threw it at me, and I want to say I was like 6 or 7, and then it went into Grandma's pumpkin patch that she had in the garden. And she made us pull all of the pumpkins up because she was also terrified of snakes. And I think part of me continuing that fear was because, okay, well, Grandma's afraid of it. That must mean there's a reason to be afraid of it.
Yeah, because Grandma wasn't really afraid of much.
Exactly. So, you know, we moved down to California, Northern California, where there are several venomous snakes. I've never encountered one, ever, which I'm very lucky for. But at the same time, like, there is no legit reason I should be afraid of them. But I definitely am. But I have definitely other fears. Do you have other irrational fears, even other than the helicopters?
Not really. I mean, I'm not a fan of spiders. I can deal with them. If there's somebody else in the house, I would prefer that they dealt with that. And my husband and I have a really good deal. He is afraid of snakes as well. It's quite entertaining, actually. So we've kind of got a deal where I take care of the snakes and he takes care of the spiders. But my dislike for spiders is not nearly as bad as his dislike for snakes. Like I will deal with a spider if I have to, but I would prefer not to. He will not deal with a snake. I'm not kidding you. At our old house, we had this beautiful bush type, similar to a rhododendron, but it wasn't. But it was similar to that, and we were trimming it. And there was a piece that kind of went over like our fence line, and we were kind of trimming it, and all of a sudden a snake moved because it was sunning itself on top of, because it was pretty high up, like 8 feet up. And so it was sunning itself, and like he saw it. I didn't see the thing because I don't care. And the only issue I have with snakes, and it's the only time they ever, I don't want to say frighten me, but ever surprise me is when they move, because they move so fast. So I'm not afraid of them, but like, I don't know. They startle me, yeah. But once I know it's a snake, whatever, it's not a big deal. But he had like one of these like pole saws, and he was like, he saw, and he dropped it and he ran. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I ended up taking the pole saw, turned off, and I just kind of tapped the top of the leaf, and it slithered off, and then he would not go near that bush for the rest of the day. So like, I don't mind spiders. I would prefer not to have to get rid of them, but I will if I have to. But that's really like the only other thing that I think that I'm like, and I don't even want to say fearful of. It's just something I really don't like.
Okay. Now, where you guys are at, what kind of snakes do you guys even have?
So we have the gardener snakes. Out west, they have in the sandhills, they have a lot of rattlesnakes. And then here in town, I have yet to see one, but apparently they are pretty prevalent here, is a bull snake. And they're pretty aggressive. I don't know if they're venomous, but they are aggressive and they will bite. But I don't know if they're venomous. And honestly, I've never seen one. If I have, I didn't know that's what it was, because I mean, unless I need it to move, if I see a snake, I'm not going to interrupt it or disturb it.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. So at my previous job, one of my jobs throughout the week, once a week, I had to check our pest traps. And I worked in a warehouse, so, you're going to get bugs and spiders and things like that. So one day I went to go check one of them, and I picked it up, and it was like those glue trap ones.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I picked it up and looked inside of the little container, and I saw a snake, and I dropped it, threw it, and I ran to the other part of the warehouse, and I was like, I need one of you guys to come take care of this. And they're like, what is it? And I was like, it's a snake. And at first, like, the looks of it looked like a rattlesnake to me. And the guys came and looked at it and removed it from the glue trap and, like, cleaned it off. And they're like, this is obviously not a rattlesnake. This is a gopher snake. And I'm like, I don't know the difference, okay? Just,
What's a
it's a snake.
snake?
It looks like a rattlesnake, but it's non-venomous.
Okay.
So, like, and apparently they prey on things like gophers and, like, small rodents.
Small rodents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, should have no fear, but, like, and just seeing it in the trap made me, like, freak the fuck out. And my friend, actually, one of my friends, I posted on, I believe it was Facebook, and I was like, found this nope rope in a trap today at work, and she goes, oh my God, the fact that you just called it a nope rope. And I'm like, everybody calls them nope ropes. Like, that's a normal thing to call a snake. It's a nope rope.
We used to have a pet snake, a ball python.
Yeah, didn't she wasn't that part of her classroom?
Mom had one for her classroom pet, and then me and my ex-husband had one when it was 2 or 3. We had a ball python.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Python. Her name was Medusa. She was beautiful.
Yeah, no. Absolutely not. and don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna, like, knock people that have pet snakes or like them. I know they're just not for me. That's all the long and short of it.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, spiders I have no problem with. In fact, I was unloading the washer a couple weeks ago, and as I shut the lid to the washer, there was a spider on the wall behind the thing, and I was like, oh, I need to take him outside, and then I forgot. And he wasn't there a few hours later, and I know several people that would be like, okay, we're burning this house down, we are moving, I don't know where it went, and I'm like, no, like, and that's the other thing too, is I don't kill spiders. I relocate them outdoors. Spiders are my friend.
I will attempt to put them outside, but there are some wolf spiders here that are very big, and they're fast. And they're hard sometimes to get captured and put outside. So sometimes they're going to die. Sorry. But yeah, spiders are good, which is why as long as they're far away and they're not on me, I don't mind them.
See, and I am, like, eaten alive in the summer by mosquitoes. Anything that eats mosquitoes, I'm happy about. So bring it on. And I know I should be happy about snakes because they will eat like, I think they eat I don't know. I don't know.
I think the slitheriness of snakes is what really kind of like gives people the heebie-jeebies, because they don't have legs, they don't have fingers, and so like, and they are so fast that it's just the unknown of where they're going to go, and there are so many different types. Some are venomous, some are not, some will strike, some will run. Like, you know, it's, yeah. I think the unknown of spiders is what really honestly stresses people out.
I guess.
For me, I'm like I said, they will startle me if I don't know they're there and they start to move, but I'm not frightened of it. Like fear, just more, hey, that it wouldn't, even if it was any other kind of bug, if it moved and I don't know it's there, it's going to startle me.
Yeah, like I get startled easily in general.
Oh, yeah.
Like so many people will walk into like my area at work and I won't necessarily hear them coming, or they'll walk up behind me, and the fact that like all of a sudden something's there, that startles me, and people are like, you scare easily. And I'm like, but it's not scared. It's just startled.
No, I get scared easily. Like, I will tell people, I will scream. Like, there's been times where the door's open at work and someone will come up behind me and I have my podcast in, and they'll like tap me on the shoulder and I'll scream, and other people outside of our room can hear it. And I'm very jumpy when it comes to not knowing if somebody's in the room, and then all of a sudden there's somebody there.
I had a coworker that used to enjoy scaring me, and he actually like started recording some of the scares that he'd get out of me. Nice. And I told him, I was like, you got to be careful, because I'm a thrower. So if I get startled too much, I will throw something. And one time I almost threw a full energy drink at him.
See, I'm a hitter. So, like, I'll flail my arms. So if you're right behind me and I throw I'm not responsible if I punch you or hit you. So let's go through the top 10 fears of people. First one being agoraphobia, which is a fear of open spaces. Is that something that... No.
Like, it doesn't affect you at all? You don't think about it?
I mean, I've never been on a cruise ship out in the middle of the ocean where I can't see land, and I do hear that can be jarring to some people who maybe didn't have a problem with it before. I mean, if I'm out in like the desert, or if I'm like at the beach and I look out on the ocean and it's wide open spaces, no, I actually prefer. I love that big openness. That does not bother me at all.
I'm right there with you. I love meadows.
Yes.
Oh, like, give me a nice meadow and I'll just...
My favorite is when we used to go hiking growing up, and like we'd hike up these hills and like you'd get to the top and it would open up to this big, either beautiful lake or field or whatever. And like that to me is like when you round that corner and you just see that, it's such a happy place to be.
It is. It really is. For us, it's calming. It's the opposite of fearful.
Absolutely.
Next one is acrophobia, which is a fear of heights.
So I don't know that I'm fearful, but I have been in places where I'm like in a very high building where I kind of get like this weird tingly feeling in my body where I think it's like one of your spidey senses that are popping in saying something's not right. And I don't know if it's just my body saying I don't feel safe, or if I don't think that I'm afraid. Like, I'm not afraid to go up to a high building, or, you know what I mean? But, like, once I'm up there, sometimes I get kind of a weird feeling. What about you?
So, I never had a fear of heights in the past. I used to climb on Grandma's roof to get to my bedroom sometimes when I'd lock myself out of my house, because my bedroom was on the second floor. And I had no problem with it. And our roof was kind of steep, actually, in areas.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
If I had a fear, I should have been afraid then. But as I've gotten older, and I think this is a mortality thing,
mm-hmm.
It definitely is a bigger fear. Like when I was working for the airline, mm-hmm. and I had to do de-icing.
Yes.
Being up in that bucket so high to de-ice the tail of that plane.
Yeah.
Was a little much for me at times. I tended to get used to it. And then at the end of the season, I'd be like, okay, we're done. And then, the next season would come around and I'd have to come to terms with my fear again.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine people that want to bungee jump or skydive, or I understand that there's a thrill there. That is definitely not a thrill I would seek. Here's a good one. Here is a very good one. I do not know how to pronounce this. So anyone out there who, if you know that I'm pronouncing it wrong, please forgive me. Teramorphanophobia?
Is that
which
the
is
little holes?
What?
The people who are afraid of like all the little holes.
No.
It's a legitimate thing. Look it up. But I don't
No, but this is a fear of flying.
Okay. So I do have another fear.
It's not your number one though, right?
Well, no, because I don't do it often. So I feel like, you know, I don't fly all the time. So if I felt like I flew all the time, it would probably be my number one fear. Although I do feel like if I were to fly more often, I'd have a better opportunity to overcome that fear. Whereas I you know, only go flying every once in a while. So I don't like flying at all.
Like at all.
Like at all. Like I cry like a little girl when we're taking off. And like okay, so like, you know how like you're taxiing down the runway and you like turn the corner and like, you know, when you're the next plane to go because like everything goes quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start hauling up. That is the worst moment of my life. Like when everything goes quiet right before you start hauling down the runway. Oh my God. I am white knuckling the seat. I'm crying, tears running down my face. I don't like it. Oh my God. And then once we're up in the air, I'm okay, but I don't like turbulence. Again, I'm not a big fan of roller coasters either because I don't like that stomach jumping up into your throat. That's not, I get no enjoyment out of that. And I have to remind myself that turbulence has never caused a plane accident. Like accidents are happened by, you know, planes malfunctioning, never turbulence. Turbulence has never brought down a plane. Now, turbulence can help cause problems with a plane that helps, but turbulence itself has never been the cause of bringing down a plane. So, like, because I listened to a podcast about Take to the Skies, and it's all about, you know, air disasters and, like, what the air...
Why do you listen to a podcast like that if you're afraid of flying?
Because every time, like, you know, the NTSB and everything, they do, you know, obviously an investigation. And from that, you learn ways that these companies are now implementing safer ways to fly. So it makes you feel safer because you're going, okay, well, you know, and it's not recent disasters. It's stuff that happened in like the 70s and the 80s when...
Are you trying to say the 80s is a long time ago, ma'am?
Well, it's 40 some odd years ago.
Shut up.
But, you know, things have changed since then. You know, we the way that, you know, the maintenance and stuff and blah, blah, blah. It's just, I mean, obviously I'm not going to listen to that podcast right before I get on a plane. But anybody who knows me knows I cry like a little girl. And I always used to say that if my mommy wasn't on the other end of the flight or if my children weren't on the other end of the flight, I wouldn't do it. That has since changed.
So, quick thing. I'm going to tell a quick story. When I got married back in 2008, I flew. I was at the time I was working for an airline, and I flew from Seattle to Denver to pick up Ginny and her kids.
Because she could fly standby.
I could for free. It was just all a matter of you had to take whatever seat was available, and so I was hoping that I could get 2 seats together. So one for her ex-husband, her now ex-husband, and their oldest kid, and then one for me and her youngest kid, because her youngest was still considered a lap child at that time.
Yeah, he wasn't too.
Yeah. So I flew down to Denver, picked him up, turned around, got back on the same exact plane I flew in on, and we got it so that we had 2 and 2 seats. So Ginny and I were sitting toward the back of the plane, her ex-husband and oldest were sitting closer toward the front.
Mm-hmm.
And she is bawling like a little girl. And I'm just sitting there laughing. Like, I can't help but laugh because flying is one of my favorite things. I love takeoff. I love landing. It's the best part of the flight. It's the middle part that I don't like because I'm like, okay, I'm bored. Are we there yet? Like, I am like a little child. Like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? But, like, seeing my sister freaking out, crying like a little girl, holding onto her armrests. Oh, yeah. Sorry, big sister. Holding onto the armrests, and, like, I don't even remember how your youngest handling.
He was passed out.
Was he?
Yeah, he passed out by then.
Oh, seriously, I was so focused on the fact that you were crying and I was laughing and I'm a horrible person and I'm okay with that. I accept that I'm a horrible person for laughing at your pain.
So I have to tell a funny story about my husband.
Oh.
So my husband was born in Israel and he's Arab. And maybe 6 months into dating him, he had to take a class for work, and he either had to take it in Atlanta or Seattle. And when he knew my family was from Seattle, he was like, oh, I should take it up there and you can come with me and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, but I was like, I really don't fly well. And keep in mind, we've been dating for 6 months. And Amy can attest, it is an ugly cry. It is a, you're a bitch, sort of thing. So I kept telling him, like, I tried to preemptively explain to him that, please don't judge me, please don't break up with me, blah, blah, blah. And my husband, being the jokester that he is, was like, honey, you can't cry when you're flying with me. And I was like, why? And he goes, because you're a white girl traveling with an Arab. We're gonna get stuck in security and I was like, babe, I don't cry in the airport, just on the plane. And he's like, yeah, but that doesn't look good if this big Arab guy, because he's big, he's 6'1", 6'2", over 200 pounds, and I'm a little 5'2" white girl. And he was like, yeah, that's gonna draw a lot of attention, you can't cry. And I was like, well, now I'm stressed out, like I'm crying because I'm scared, and now I'm stressed that I'm on a plane and they're gonna think something. Oh my God. And in his attempt to be funny, he stressed me out even more. Yeah. So
one of my favorite stories you've ever told me about him.
Yeah.
Like that's when I knew that I could handle this guy being my brother-in-law. He's got a sense of humor.
He does. So okay.
So going down the list, we are at claustrophobia, which is a fear of enclosed spaces. Yes.
You do?
Depends. Yes. It's a very slight fear. If I feel trapped, if I feel like I can't get out, like elevators, no big deal, because unless it stalls, and I'm sure I would freak the fuck out. But no, as an elevator goes normally, I'm not afraid of them. I used to hide in like cupboards, like very small cupboards when we were kids, when we played hide and seek. And looking back, I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? Like,
for all of those who don't know, Amy is 4'11".
No, I'm 4'10".
4'10". So when we say itty bitty, she's itty bitty.
Just shy of being a legal little person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or actually, as our nephew pointed out, no, I am a little person.
Oh, you are.
He looked it up and he sent me a link, and apparently the cutoff for a little person is 4'10". So I
thought it was anything under 4'11".
I don't remember anymore. I remember at one point, I wanted to be less than 5 foot so I could claim that and be like, yeah. And then at one point it went down, and then I was like, see, I even get screwed in being like having this cool label on me.
But this is how she was able to hide in cupboards when she was younger, because she was little.
Yeah, and in all fairness, like I've always been small. Like our grandma's neighbor, he didn't remember any of us grandkids' names, but he would always ask, "Oh, hey, when is the little girl with short legs coming back?" And I was the little girl with short legs.
That's great. Oh
because my torso is like technically proportionate,
abnormally large for your height. Yes.
Yeah. So I have
not abnormally large, abnormally tall for
my
your height.
Yeah. So my pants are always like a foot too long. And of course, like it's hard to like hem your own pants because you gotta like measure them, and I can't measure them while they're on myself because if I bend over to measure them, then they're still too long when I stand back up. Yeah, it's a whole mess. I actually have to have somebody who I know who can pin my pants, and then I can hem them. No big deal, but yeah. Yeah, but that I don't understand how I was so perfectly fine climbing in such small, confined spaces as a child. I don't know. Maybe it's another one of those, like, mortality things where I know you could, if nobody finds me and I can't get out, I know I could die. But anyways. Next one, entomophobia, fear of insects. Which, like we said, Ginny isn't necessarily afraid of the insect themselves, more startled by their quick movements.
Yeah, I have a healthy respect for insects. Like, it's one of those things where, they have a place, they have a purpose. I don't necessarily want them on me, but I respect their environment and where they're at. And as long as, if I don't know they're there, as long as they don't make some sudden movement, I don't care. I'm not one of those people that go, oh, statistically speaking, I have all these bugs. No, that doesn't bug me. And if I can see them, as long as I can see them and I know where it's at, it doesn't bother me. Again, more startled if I don't know they're there and they make sudden movements,
But that's technically not limited to just bugs, like we said.
No, yeah. I
never really thought anything about ticks until we moved down here. And then all of a sudden, like, I'd have to check my dog at the end of the day when we were out camping to make sure she didn't have any ticks on her. And then I've had a couple on me a few times, and it's scared the daylights out of me because, like, I don't know enough about them. In Washington, we never had an issue. Even when we were out in the woods, we never really had an issue.
It's too cold there.
Is that what it is?
I think it gets too cold at night because I remember people talking about it when we were younger. And I think on the east side, they might get more ticks just because it does stay warmer in the summer. But we never ever looked for ticks on our dogs. It was never something that we were taught to check yourself for ticks when you came inside. And we were outside
a lot
every day, all day. Like
we grew up in the generation where you didn't come inside.
Yeah.
Like,
and we never had to check our potty. Where here, it's definitely especially
so you guys have ticks there too?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. I've only ever pulled one that was actually in me, like where I had to pull it out. I've found one crawling on me before. But we kind of knew because we were out at our friend's house. And he lives out down by like a creek with like tall grass and stuff. And so before we got in the car, I was wearing black pants, like black leggings. And like we made sure to, so I found one. And then I've probably maybe pulled 2 or 3 off of Coda Girl in the 6 years that we've had her.
So with her being a dark colored dog, how do you see them?
She has shorter hair. So it's hard to see until they're a little bit bigger. But 99% of the time, if we go to a place where we know that she's, like, if we go on a walk and she's in, like, tall grass or whatever, we just, you have to do a lot of, like, full body massage sort of thing to feel lumps or whatever. Because sometimes they can hide in her until they're, have enough. I mean, and we put flea and tick medication on her. Unfortunately, there's still going to be 1 or 2 that's going to get on her, but it hopefully will prevent her from getting any diseases. But we've found a couple. We've actually had a couple on our bed, too, where we took Coda out to this friend's house and we tried cleaning her off or whatever, and we didn't find anything. And then in the middle of the night, one of us felt something crawling and it was on the bed. So we just didn't catch it on her. But thankfully, like, it jumped off and landed. And I think it had started crawling on my husband's arm. And he woke up in the middle of the night and, like, felt it, which usually you don't feel. But it's a much bigger concern here than it was back home.
Yeah, like when we lived down here in the past, I don't ever remember having issues, but Sugar was also a dark colored dog. She was a lab Rottweiler mix, whereas the ones we have now, we were told they were both lab shepherd. I don't think that's the case. Turtle she's so short, like she's so petite.
And her head is the weirdest shape.
Yeah, oh my, when she was a puppy, she was so top heavy, as Bill called it, that she would fall out of his arms when he would hold her.
She almost has a Great Dane head.
Yes, but petite, like this.
Like her head is way too big for her body.
Yes, well, I mean, she's grown into it more so as she's grown up, but she's like a fawn color. So we've always wondered if maybe ticks were attracted to her because she had the like coat of closer to a deer. So, I mean, and we haven't ever had any issues that I know of with Monkey. And Monkey she's the one I believe is a lab shepherd mix, although I have a feeling she is a lot less lab than shepherd because she is massive. And she's all black. So, if she has had them on her, we have not caught them on. So.
No, I mean, that's good though.
Yeah, definitely. Next going down that list is ophidiaphobia, which is a fear of snakes, which obviously we've already covered. I definitely have that fear, which is really funny because I always thought, I was like, okay, well, if I'm in water, I'm fine. And then I come to find out that rattlesnakes can actually, like, move on top of the water. I did not know this.
I did not know that either.
And here's also another disclaimer. My husband likes to fuck with me a lot. So there is a chance that is just him fucking with me. So if that is wrong, I apologize to any listeners. But yeah, he does like to mess with me in a funny way. Like, for the most part, he'll always tell me when he's messing with me, but sometimes I get a little too gullible and he takes it a little farther. Cynophobia, which is a fear of dogs. CYNO, which cynophobia. I don't know. Anyway, CYNO phobia. Obviously, neither one of us have that issue since we both have dogs. Astrophobia, which is a fear of storms.
I used to until I moved here. And then I don't think you can live here and have a fear of storms because it's so weird. Like, some summers we get crazy, crazy storms every single day. And then some summers we go with nothing. And when I'm talking storms, we're getting tornado warnings. We're getting flash flood warnings. We're getting high wind warnings, sideline wind warnings. Like, the tornado sirens will go off. Like, it can get, and don't get me wrong, when the sirens start to go off, I've never seen a tornado. But we do have what they call straight line winds, which can be just as damaging as tornadoes.
Now, what exactly is a straight line wind?
It is a thunderstorm wind that has no rotation. Downbursts are a common cause of wind damage from a thunderstorm. They can reach over 100 miles an hour and are caused by air being dragged down by precipitation. Okay. So pretty much it's tornado gale force winds, but without rotation.
Okay.
So they just come through with like huge, massive gusts. And they can reach super, super high, and they are damaging. And the sirens will go off for those too, just because they can tell based off of the atmospheric pressure and everything. And so those have gone off a few times, and it can be frightening. But not frightening like I'm scared, but just, the thing that I always told people that they think is really strange is I'm more afraid of a tornado than I'm an earthquake. And people ask why. And I say because with a tornado, there is some level of a heads up and a warning. So you have time to get stressed about it. Whereas with an earthquake, it just happens. And you have no choice in that moment but to, we're going to deal with this. We're going to write it out. And then afterwards, the fear can kick in,
Going back to earthquake real quick, a couple weeks ago, there was one on the coast of California. Yeah. And apparently the area I'm in got this notice, and then a few seconds after the alert came in on our phones, that's when people felt it. So it was like a delayed, like we felt it later because of how, I don't know, how the
probably because it was far enough away that by the time the shaking reached you,
probably
the earthquake had already taken place.
Exactly. So in that instance, there was a level of, we know it's coming.
Correct.
But at the same time, I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, which that's how I sleep with my phone.
Yeah.
It goes on Do Not Disturb at night, and it comes back on first thing in the morning. But yeah, apparently most people that I work with, they got that notification. And don't get me wrong, I got the notification too, but I was already asleep, and I didn't feel it because I was asleep. But most people got their notification, and then they felt it. But they got their notification because their notifications were turned on. And it's like that high-pitched one that's like for Amber Alerts or whatever. It's like that.
That's what we get too for the tornadoes and stuff.
But again, because I have mine on Do Not Disturb, it didn't come through. My coworker told me, she's like, so if something like really, really bad happens, you're okay with dying through it because you have your phone on Do Not Disturb. And I'm like, absolutely.
I've had Amber Alerts come through on my phones and Do Not Disturb.
I maybe this one didn't just because it wasn't as big of a
or maybe
deal.
You don't have it set up, like, because when I went in and did the Do Not Disturb, you can choose what can come through and what cannot, and I think I allowed that. But that's also because we do have nasty weather that comes through quite often.
And in all fairness, if a big natural disaster is coming, and I'm asleep, I'm okay with going out while I'm asleep and not even knowing about it.
And not know about it, yeah.
Yeah, like that's the way I would want to go.
It's like dying in your sleep,
you know? Yeah, exactly. It's okay. Yep. I'll take that. Yep. All right. So next one we've got is trypanophobia, which is a fear of needles. No? I have no fear of needles either. My husband, he doesn't like watching them take his blood, but he has no problem with it. But he definitely, like, he's one of those that, like, he will make jokes and look away. And, like, so for a while, I used to donate blood because I'm a universal donor. And he's like, why would you do that? Like, you're using your blood. Why do you need to give someone else? Like, you need your blood. And I'm like, yes, but your blood regenerates. And he goes,
yeah, you can make more blood.
But I'm using it. They can't have it. I'm using it. And I'm like, okay, you do you. But no,
until
I would
you
always
get in an accident or something, and then you need blood.
and then he'll ask me, hey, donate blood for me, because I can donate.
See, and I don't have a fear of needles, but I do have to watch while they're pulling the blood. I can't not know when it's going in, because then I'll jump, because I don't know. So, like, I have to watch. Only because I think, like I said, the startle of not knowing.
See, and I don't want to watch the initial go in, just because then my brain makes it hurt worse. Like, my brain sees it and it's like, oh, that's supposed to hurt, so it does. Normally speaking, unless they are really, really bad at their job and are, like, digging around for a vein, I have, like, they can hit it right away because I have really, really beautiful, beautiful veins. But no, if I look at it, it hurts way worse than if I don't.
See, I have to look at it once to put it in, and then once they, like, you know, take the thing off your arm, and, like, I don't need to see it after that, but, like, otherwise I'll jump, and then I'm afraid that if I jump, they're going to miss the vein, and then they're going to have to poke again, and that's not something I want. I'm not afraid of needles, I just don't want to be poked, obviously, so, like, I would rather get it right the first time. And not move and not jump. So I would prefer to watch it. So I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, they're going in. And then once they're in, I'm like, okay, I'm good. You know, it's...
See, and I'm the opposite. I don't look while they're putting it in. But once they're in, I'm like, okay, how many vials are we taking today? And I would like to... okay, this is, like, the part of me that's fascinated with medical stuff. But I like to see the hue of red that my blood is when it comes.
I mean, I don't have to watch it, but I don't need to not watch it. I just don't, I'm just one of those, like, once it goes in, like, I don't necessarily need to watch it. I can look away. But I will tell you, I was very disappointed. They will not let you visually watch an epidural being put in.
Why would you need to?
Because that's one of those things where the fear of not knowing when it was going in, I feared I was going to jump. And anybody who's had an epidural knows that they make you lean over the side of the bed. They wait for you to be in a contraction before they do it. So that
actually makes sense.
And it makes sense, but you're in excruciating pain and trying to breathe through a contraction, and then all of a sudden you get poked in the spine. So, like, and you're not supposed to move, because if they get it wrong by, like, a little bit, you sign off on your life in this paperwork. So, like, and part of it is because the needle is quite large. You know, obviously anybody can Google what that looks like. And they won't even let you see it prior. Like, it comes in on a tray and everything's covered. Like,
in all fairness, that makes total
sense. You
cannot
see anything.
That makes sense, because there's so many people with fear of needles. And 2, there's so many, like, even if you're not afraid of needles, seeing the size of it could induce anxiety. So, like, I get that.
I mean, I get it too, but for me, like, that's my coping mechanism, is to see it. So it was stressful for me to not see it.
Makes sense.
But other than that, I don't have any fear of it.
Okay. Well, that is the top 10 fears.
Number 1 is the fear of needles?
It was either the fear of needles or it was the first one, which is open spaces. So it didn't say, like, 1 to 10. It just said these are the top 10. So I don't know if they didn't rank them on which one's worse, which one's more common. But yeah, those are the top 10 fears of...
That's crazy.
Of people that granted, this is also, you know, you got to think of people that were polled. So there's definitely people that aren't included in this because they didn't give the information.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have given the information because nobody's ever really asked me.
Well,
per se.
And I've never really volunteered that kind of information, although we are now.
And I have no problem. Like, I know some people are like, I don't want people to know what I'm afraid of because then they can use it against me. I don't care. I'm not that paranoid. And two, if you know that I'm afraid of something and you use it against me, I want to know that I shouldn't be trusting you in the first place.
Well, and I feel like that's a fear in and of itself, is to be afraid that somebody would use your fear against you.
Okay. So, quick thing. I have a fear that has come recently, and I don't know if it's irrational, but I am afraid of someone driving into my home. I have read, so like I don't know, I don't know. I think it's just because I've seen it more often. Is so many people like driving into businesses, homes, things like that, and I don't know if it's that they weren't paying attention or if they were intoxicated or what the case may be. But I had down my street last year, I had somebody like flip their truck in front of my house, and had he turned his wheel slightly the other direction, he could have ended up in my living room. And if that happened, it would have killed my husband because he was right there. But like, it's such...
I don't think that's irrational because it's something that like you probably didn't think about prior to that, or at least didn't think about in detail, but exactly. Because it was so close to your home, and you're right, one little turn of the wheel could have changed the outcome of where he hit. I think that, I don't know that that's necessarily irrational. It's definitely a rational fear. I think it's something that will probably go away with time, because the further you are away from the situation and the incident, the less it's going to be on your minds. But I mean, that's like if you were to go in a plane and like something were to happen, not the plane crashed, but, you know, let's say you hit really bad turbulence and you had to, you know, land somewhere, you would be rationally fearful of getting on a plane again for quite some time. And then eventually, as you separate yourself from that, you would be able to overcome that fear.
I guess. I mean, and that's very possible. But I'm also wondering if it wouldn't go away, because I've seen so many more instances of it in the news.
Yeah, but that's because it just happened, so I think you're seeing it. It's kind of like if you buy a new car and all of a sudden you see how many cars are out there that just look like yours. Like, but you probably didn't see it before. But you know what I mean? Like, it just happened. It's something that's really on the forefront of your mind because it sparked a fear. And so now you're recognizing it somewhere else where you might not have recognized it before.
And that's very, very possible. But another two that I have, these two are actually irrational. One is propane, like gas grills. I don't like lighting them. Nothing has ever happened to make me afraid of lighting them, but I am afraid of lighting them because it could blow up. And it's totally irrational because there's no legitimate reason I should have for that. And then the other one, this one, I get made fun of for a lot, actually. Balloons. It's not the balloon itself that scares me. It's the popping.
The pops. Yeah.
Yes. And of course, you don't know when it's going to pop, so it's a startling thing.
God, you would have died last night because I was bartending a Christmas party, and they had like a balloon arch for pictures. And towards the end, this guy was going through and popping them all. And one of the guys, the head guys, was like, he's like a 2-year-old. Who has to pop all those balloons? Because like they had to throw it away anyways. But this guy just like pop, 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 pop. Oh my God. Like, it was obnoxious for me because it was just making noise. But you would have had a heart attack.
Yeah. Like that's like, yeah. And I think that's because of where we grew up. We kind of grew up in the ghetto. And like, I'm afraid of like gunshots. And that's what it kind of reminds me of.
The funny thing is that I, to this day, would not be able to differentiate what is a gunshot and what is not. Because I know what, I guess I don't know. I'm fearful of the helicopter noise from the military base, but I don't remember or associate all of the training they did with the guns and that noise. I don't.
I'm talking about after we left.
Well, yeah, base. And then you guys moved over into the ghetto, and I did not. So
no. This was like while we were still living with our bio mom in those apartments.
I don't remember any gunshots.
There was and we'll go into this a different time about memories that might be real and might not be. But I have a recollection of this. murder that happened in our apartment complex. And, like, we went over and, like, saw the blood all over the walls.
I think you might be thinking about the time that one of our neighbors' kid, we were all riding bikes around the apartment complex, and she fell off her bike and, like, skinned her knee, and a huge chunk of skin came off, and they sent all of us kids around with toothpicks to try to find the skin, and there was blood everywhere.
Yeah, I definitely don't remember that.
So I think you might be, but I was like 5 or 6, so you were much younger. So you might be correlating blood with murder because she did go into the house and there was blood everywhere because she was gushing blood. Like, it was bad. And she had like a square shaped, like, there was a large, and they legitimately, like, her bone was showing. That's how bad she skinned it. And, like, they legitimately sent us kids out on our bikes with toothpicks and forks to try to find the skin, because they ended up taking her either to the emergency room or in an ambulance. I don't remember. And there was a lot of blood. So I don't wonder if you're putting blood together and thinking there was a murder scene, because as far as I'm aware, that did not happen.
I just remember it like it was across the courtyard. The apartment I'm thinking of was across the courtyard from where we were.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then maybe that is the story. I legitimately don't know. And yeah.
There was a lot of blood, I do know that, but she'd skinned her knee or elbow or something that bled profusely, and she did end up getting taken to the hospital. I don't know if it was in a car or if in an ambulance, but she did get taken. And they were hoping that we could find the skin so it could be reattached. And I never found it.
I can't tell you whether I did or not because I don't remember this in the first place.
I don't believe anybody found it, if I remember correctly.
And if I remember correctly, it was a straight up murder.
No.
Like somebody was murdered.
I mean, it's possible, but if you're thinking about what I'm thinking about, then no.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. So,
we'll have to do an episode on memories, because
yes,
that's funny.
Yes, because seriously, there's a few that I'm gonna have to ask you about because I don't know what's real and what isn't.
Or like what you've added into stories to embellish unintentionally.
I'm gonna also put this out there. Any memories that I come up with on this podcast, I'm going to put it out there. There's a chance that it never happened at all. There's a chance
Clearly,
that
somebody was not murdered, and if they were, I don't know about it.
and there's a chance that the things that I do remember...
Wait, are you talking about the apartment complex that was by the drive-in, or the one that was off of...
It was off like 6th. Or not 6th. Steel. No, not Steel.
Okay, so then I know what you're talking about there. Somebody was not murdered. So the one that was in the drive-in was the skin with the knee or whatever.
Okay.
The other one is they were having a house party, and it was in the middle of the summer, and a girl got mad at her boyfriend, or there was a fight, or I don't know the details, obviously, because I wasn't at the party, but it was during the day. And she slammed her door and her window shattered, and like it like flew out and like cut people, and there was like blood everywhere, and like cops showed up and everything. But like and this was back early 90s, if that, where single pane windows, and she slammed her door so hard that like we had those big like living room windows, and it shattered and like flew and hit people and like cut people and scraped people. And then a guy was arrested. I remember that. So I don't know if like I would assume it was a boyfriend girlfriend that were fighting. Like I said, I don't know all the details, but I do know that she did like slam the door, and the glass shattered and it went everywhere and people got hurt.
That's interesting. That sounds more like it, like from what my memory would be. Like that sounds like it would match up.
Because like if you were looking out our window, she was across the courtyard, but like over here, like a little bit to the left, like because like there was our building and then another building and then 2 buildings over here and then 2 buildings across. And they were like in a U shape. Yes, and she was not in the 2 buildings across, but she was in that second building over here to the left on the very corner between like the 2 buildings. So yeah, that's what happened there. But the drive-in was she fell off her bike and we were looking for pieces of skin.
Oh, that's fabulous. Do you have any this or that's this week?
I don't, but I can pull some up. Do you want me to pull some up?
Sure.
Okay, so this is a would you rather, kind of like a this or that. So live in the city or live in the countryside?
Absolutely country, hands down. So last couple places we've been, this rental that we're in and the apartments we were in before we left Washington, there's so much noise in the city. So much noise. And if I'm going to have noise, I want it to be like a woodpecker or the howl of some wolves or coyotes, or like I want nature sounds. I don't want people revving an engine or swear to God, why do every garbage truck that ever existed have squeaky brakes?
I don't know.
Every morning, like half hour before I have to wake up on Friday mornings, they come down my street and all I hear is "Yee!" as they're stopping. And I'm like, really? I just wanted a half hour more of sleep, man.
I'm indifferent because, like, I love the city, but I have also learned to love, like, being out in the countryside. So, like, I would love to have some land and live out in the countryside, but I need to be within 10 or 15 minutes of a somewhat decent-sized city because I can't not have people and the hustle and bustle and the movement. It's just,
I went from living in Tacoma, which I don't know the population of Tacoma, but we went from that down to 90,000 people in our town, and this is still a little too
As of 2021, Tacoma's population is 219,205.
That's bullshit. I guarantee there's more.
Keep in mind that's Tacoma. That's not including Midland,
UP.
Yeah,
Okay.
like University Place, Stillicum, all those places that we consider Tacoma.
Yeah.
But really it's not. Same thing with Seattle. Seattle actually has very small city limits, but that's not including Ballard, Queen Anne,
Capitol Hill.
Yeah, Capitol Hill, like all that kind of stuff. So,
Okay.
Okay. So then, have incredible strength or be incredibly fast?
I would rather be incredibly fast, because if I could be incredibly fast like the Flash, I could run to your house real quick for a weekend and just hang out with you for a weekend and then just be back for work.
That's true. But what would that do to your body? I feel like if you had to be incredibly fast, like that would use so much energy.
Yeah, and then I could eat more and then I wouldn't get fat. Oh my God, this is getting really good. And then I think if you're incredibly fast, you have an incredibly fast
metabolism.
Yeah, and I think that also means that you heal faster.
That also means that you can eat way more and not gain the weight.
Which, that's the most exciting part for me. How about you?
Probably be incredibly fast, just because there's always so much to do. And then if I don't get it, I feel like I'm being lazy. So if I could be really fast and get it all done right away and then like thoroughly enjoy my downtime, that would be great.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with actually like hanging out with your sister.
I mean, but it would free up more time to be able to do those things. Like, I feel like I'm always like, there's always a list of things that need to be done. And I feel like I never get caught up on it. And even when I have my downtime, I feel kind of bad that I'm not up doing something else. So, I mean, it's kind of a, 2 for 1. If I get more stuff done sooner, then that gives me more free time to do stuff for myself, but then also be able to do stuff with other people and not feel like I'm being pulled in 17 directions. So.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
Fly or be invisible? And not fly like on a plane, but like you yourself personally, would you rather be able to fly or be invisible?
Fly. Absolutely. Hands down. One, I'm already invisible. Nobody, like, I've always felt invisible.
It's because you're 4'11".
10.
4'10".
I'm 4'10", okay? And maybe that is why. I don't know. I mean, as I've gotten older, I've gained more weight, so there should be more substance to see. I mean, there's like a blob, right? But either way, I'm still fucking invisible. So yeah, I've already got the invisibility power, so I'd rather be able to fly. Again, same reason. I'd love to fly myself down to you and Chris, hang out, and we could podcast there. And
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I would rather be invisible. As we've established, Ginny does not like to fly. So even if I had the ability, I would not. So I'd rather be invisible, because then I could just like get stuff done and not have to be distracted. Because people couldn't see me. I could clean, I could go grocery shopping, and then I wouldn't have to stop and talk to people.
I mean, that's fair. Like I said, nobody ever actually talks to me. In fact, so when I go to the grocery store, I have wireless bone conduction headphones. So they sit outside my ear so I can hear what's going on around me. But because I have those in and people can see them because I have my hair up, they leave me alone when I'm at the grocery store. It's great.
I live in a much smaller town and my husband knows everybody. So it is so hard to go anywhere and not see somebody who knows me, and I don't know them, but because of who my husband is, they think they know me, which is fine, but then I just have to sit there and go, oh yeah, huh? And then I come home and I'm like, babe, so this person, this is what they look like. And we try to do a process of elimination of who these people are. Okay, so would you rather visit the past or visit the future?
I'm going to say past. So I feel like I could do more in the past. And I feel like the future would just give me anxiety. Because then I'd know something was coming and then I couldn't do anything about it. Like, or if I could do something about it, then I'd be like, okay, when is this going to happen?
Right. Or
but
try to prevent it or try to change. Yeah.
But would I only be able to travel within my own lifetime, or could I travel outside of my own lifetime?
It just says visit the past. It doesn't necessarily
What are your constraints on it?
I feel like if you're going to visit the past, it would have to be any time frame because, I mean, you could be 2 years old and like, what, you only have 2 years to play with there? I feel like that's not... And depending on if you believe in, and this can be another topic, past lives or reincarnation, who's to say this is our first life?
That's a good point.
So...
Because you're brand new, honey.
I don't know.
No. Do you remember that line?
It's from a movie. I forget.
It's from a TV show.
Oh, Friends.
Yeah.
Joey. It's Phoebe talking to Joey.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Friends is Ginny's and my show.
That's a guilty pleasure. We're not talking about it.
No, that's not a guilty pleasure.
That's part of my topic with guilty pleasure. So we can talk about it in the next episode.
Okay, fine then. And I'd also, if I also got to travel to the past, I'd also like to meet certain people. Abraham Lincoln's, like, and this is going to be another topic too, is like, if you could have X amount of people at alive or dead, at a dinner, who would you choose? Abraham Lincoln is one of the ones that's always been on the top of mind because I have so many questions and I want to ask him so many questions. And I don't know if we've covered this in past episodes, but I started out being very interested in history with the Civil War. So that's a very key thing. Yeah, I'm very, very curious.
I wouldn't want to visit the future because I feel like, again, it would also give me anxiety. But I also don't know that I'd want to visit the past either. And that's only because some of those people that we really, really feel like we have a lot of questions for or want to ask, I feel like we've built them up in our mind and they may disappoint. And I don't know that I would be willing to come to terms with these people may not be who we thought they were, that over time the grandiosity of who they are, whether they be somebody famous or not, could be, you know, our bubble for them could be popped. And I don't know that I'd want to have some of those bubbles popped. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to meet my adopted mom's dad. My son, L is his middle name is after him. However, I have heard some stories about how he said some things and did some things that maybe weren't today. In today's ages, he would have been canceled for saying some of these things. But he was very adamant in his belief. And I don't know that I'd want to take him off of that pedestal, even though I never met him, because he is my grandfather and my child is named after him. And I think anybody who has family, obviously, would like to keep some of those people in the past that they've put on a pedestal there because they didn't get to meet them. So they've only heard the good stories.
Fair.
You know,
that's fair.
So I feel like it's a tough, I would prefer to go in the past over the future, but I still feel like that's really, you're playing with fire either way. Okay, so would you rather have unlimited time or unlimited money?
Time.
Really?
Yeah. If you have unlimited time, you can make more money, first of all. And second of all, I have a list of books that I want to read. And that list is over 1,200 books now. At the rate that I read with interruptions and life and everything like that, I will not get through all 1,200 books in my lifetime. I won't. Let's be real. It's not going to happen. And again, another topic we might want to broach in a future episode is what the afterlife would mean to us and what we would like to see. And I would definitely like to see books in an afterlife. And if I had unlimited time on Earth, I could actually read all these books.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
And then I could, do other things that I absolutely love, like going horseback riding and working puzzles and just all the things that I want to do that I never feel like I have time or energy to do because... And okay, here's another caveat. If I have unlimited time, do I also have unlimited energy where I'm at now? Not more energy, but the same amount of energy I could always have. Because if I have the same amount of energy I have now, I'd still take the time.
I feel like I would take the money because I feel like I would rather have the money to do whatever I wanted and enjoy the time that I had, even if it was only a couple of years, as opposed to having extra time and having to work hard to be able to earn the money to be able to do the things that I wanted to enjoy in life. Like, I don't necessarily want to cut my life, but like I would rather have the same amount of time I have now, but with the unlimited funds to do what I want with that time as opposed to more time. Because I feel like I can make more memories that are enjoyable, not necessarily big trips and fancy trips, but just not having to worry about paying bills and going to work every day, that I have the time to spend with my kids. I can go visit them in college. I can do all these things and not have to worry about, well, I have to work because I have to pay these bills and I have to pay property taxes. And you know what I mean? Like, obviously I would love more time too, but I would rather do more with the time that I have with money than have longer time and have to work harder to make enough money to make that time valuable. Not that time isn't valuable without money. I mean, I get the irony in that.
No, I totally get what you're saying, though. I definitely understand.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Would you rather own a boat or own a plane?
Probably a plane. So, briefly, I was looking into joining the military. And all in all, by the way, I didn't because they said I was too fat.
And too short.
No. They said that for my height, I had to weigh 92 pounds. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding?
Holy shit.
Yeah, 92 pounds. And I'm like...
God, you could blow on you and you would, like, fall over at 92
Yeah, and then I wouldn't be fucking useful to you. So, anyways, when I was looking
Does
at
the
this,
government care?
Of course not.
Edit that part out, because that's a political stance. So let's just edit that part out.
So, anyways, when I was...
Chris is going to leave that in.
Oh, I'm sure. I have no doubt. So when I was looking into that, I said that the fields that I would want to go to were aviation or medical, just because those are the things that interested me at the time. And aviation still interests me. I would love to be able to fly. And I feel like if I could fly, if I could be the one in control of flying, I wouldn't get... Let me also preface this with a small plane. I wouldn't get motion sick. Because I don't get sick in a commercial plane. I have gotten sick in a Cessna. But I feel like, just like when you're driving, if you have control, if you're the one driving, you are less likely to get motion sick. And I feel like that's the case with... Besides, if you asked my husband the same question, he'd say a boat, and then we'd have a boat and a plane.
Oh my God.
Strategy here. Strategy. What about you?
I think I'd rather own a plane just because where I live, a boat would be absolutely 100% unnecessary and a plane would be absolutely necessary. However, contrary to you, I would rather have it be a much larger plane and not be the one flying it. I have no need for a boat here.
So there is a podcast that I listen to that one of the ads that's on it every week is for flying private. And it's like, I kind of actually want to look into this and see how cost effective it would be, especially for a larger group of people.
Yeah. I mean, it might be worth it.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather explore space or explore the ocean?
Ocean. So there's just something about the ocean that's like enticing to me. There's like all sorts of like wreckage at the bottom of the ocean that I'd love to kind of look through. Fascinates me. Space? Still a little scary to me. What about you?
Neither. Because space, I'd have to fly. And I don't want to do that. And I'm not necessarily claustrophobic, but being in a small thing under that much pressure of water would be a little bit of a claustrophobic issue for me.
Okay, but keep in mind, it just said explore it. It doesn't mean that you have to be down there. You could send one of those, like, rover vehicles.
That's true. But then if that were the case, I'd rather do space just because there's an infinite amount of space and you would never run out of things to explore and find. Not that you would in our lifetime for the ocean either. I know, like, statistically speaking, only like 10% of the ocean has ever been
Explored.
explored. But good Lord, like, space is vast and never ending. And I don't know. Like, the new pictures that are coming out with this new telescope that they've got out there with these pictures is just mind-boggling how
it's beautiful.
Space is. So.
But I'd also love, like, I've never actually gone scuba diving. I've gone snorkeling, but I'd love to go scuba diving.
Nope. Good.
Like, and not like super super deep, but like in areas that they have beautiful coral reefs and like beautiful fish and like fish that aren't gonna worry about.
I mean, I could do that too, but yeah, I wouldn't want to go to the depths of the ocean. But yeah, like off the Great Barrier Reef or whatever, those places would be fun.
No, not there, because that's where the great whites are.
No, I'm just saying that stuff like that where it's not super deep and there's a lot to see. But
yeah, fair.
Okay,
fair.
Too busy or too bored?
Too busy.
Same.
Especially when it comes to work. I always seem to, when I'm too busy, the day goes by so much faster. Whereas and in all fairness, like, I don't know, I mean, other than when I'm at work, I don't know that I'm ever too bored. Because at home, even if I've got all my chores done, again, not that I ever have to do chores, but if I ever want to do stuff, deep cleaning, things like that don't normally get done, I can do that. I have books out the wazoo that I can, so like at home boredom is not an issue. But yeah, I guess too much.
Yeah, I work better under pressure with more things to do.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more. Win the lottery or live twice as long? This one's very similar to more money or more time.
Okay. 1, it depends on how much that lottery is.
I feel like if it says live twice as long, the amount of money on the lottery would be a substantial amount. Because who would want to live twice as long and over $100? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So,
or sorry, not 100 million. Like, that's what I'm saying. Sorry. I'd rather live twice as long if the lottery was only $100. But let's say it's a substantial enough amount that you would live comfortably well off for the rest of your life.
So here's the caveat to my earlier answer. The earlier answer was unlimited time. That also to me meant no aging. So if I'm living twice as long, I am aging.
Correct.
And in turn, I'd want the money.
I would rather be able to do more with the time that I have and have the finances to fund it than have more time and be old and decrepit and not be able to enjoy the life that I had.
See, and I think that's where my answer before was slightly skewed, was because my interpretation of that is that I'm at the age I'm at currently.
Correct. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, last one. And I know the answer to this one for you. Talk to animals or speak every language?
Talk to animals. Hands down. Like, I feel like half the time I know what my animals are saying, or at least I feel like I do. But like having confirmation of what they're saying to me, or like them just looking at me and calling me an idiot, would be really fun to me. Like, they'd be like, listen, lady, you are fucking crazy. Dumbass. Go get on some meds. And I have a feeling that at least one of mine would say that. Specifically the oldest. Like, Reef would definitely be like, look, lady, you just need to lay off. Go smoke a bowl. Like, I guarantee he would say that. He would be the cat that would. He'd be like, listen, just...
Disclaimer, where Amy lives, smoking a bowl is 100% legal.
Yes. But no, he'd be like, fuck right off. And I would enjoy having that conversation with him.
See, and I feel like I'd rather speak every language just because... And I say this because we did go to Israel this summer, and there were so many... So they obviously speak Arabic, but then there's like the Muslim Arabic, and then there was Hebrew that they would speak. And like, I gotta tell you, as an American, go travel somewhere where you're the only person who doesn't speak the language. Put you in check real fucking quick. Absolutely stunning. Absolutely beautiful country. You'll learn a lot by hearing it. I did pick up on a lot of words and phrases that I was like, oh, I've heard that before. They've said it enough. And then I would ask questions. It bothered me that as an American, I was not educated enough to speak anything other than English. I took German in high school. And for 2 years because I had to have it to graduate, but not because it was something I wanted to learn. It was, you had to take a foreign language. And watching these other countries, these kids, I mean, shoot, some of my husband's cousins' kids are 5 and 6 and they're learning English in school. And the fact that that wasn't something that was what we grew up in was just, oh my God, it is eye-opening. So prior to having gone to Israel, I might have said, hey, I want to learn to talk to dogs and cats and stuff. And I probably still would. But having traveled to a foreign country where English is not the dominant language, and I was the only person who was not capable of speaking that language. My husband speaks both. He is not fluent in Arabic. He's lived here, 35 out of his 40 years of life. So, he still speaks it, and he can understand it really well, but speaking it, there are times where putting the sentences together aren't super easy for him. But he can get the general gist of his point across, and his cousins and his family can understand him. And there were plenty of times where I would just sit there. And I'm not mad about it at all because it's beautiful to listen to, and it was beautiful to be able to, hey, I've heard that word. You've said that a couple of times. What does that mean? And then I could learn to put subjects together and get the general gist of the conversation. But I would have thought differently 6 months ago. But after having gone to Israel, oh my God, I would rather speak every language, even if I just knew the basics. Hi, bye, thank you. Just the basics of every language so I could have a decent conversation. That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something to be said about going to a country where you are the foreigner and you are the minority and you are going, oh, wow, this is what people deal with when they come to the United States. And they don't cater to you there. They don't give a shit if you don't speak English. Obviously his family cares, but you go out to the stores, they don't care. They go about their life. They don't, you know what I mean? And it's eye-opening, let me tell you. It's a beautiful language too. So
I am now don't doubt that.
Trying to learn a little bit of Arabic.
I took 2 years of Spanish because at my high school it was Spanish, French, or Japanese, and Lord knows I was not taking Japanese. That's
I wish we would have had that option. We had Spanish, French, German, and American Sign Language.
See, and I think sign language was offered after I left at my school. They
offered it my second year, so had I known, I would have taken it my freshman year, but they didn't offer it until the next year. Well, they offered it. It wasn't counted as a foreign language, so that first year it was counted as an elective. The second year, they decided it could be counted as a foreign language. So had I known, I would have taken sign language.
See, and I thought, between French and Spanish, Spanish would be way more useful. And I'm going to put this out there. Unless you use it, you're going to lose. You're going to lose the words. Because by the time I started working with a large majority of Hispanic people who spoke Spanish,
it had been too long.
It had. The only words I remembered were huevos and cerveza.
Eggs and beer.
Yeah. And who needs more? That's what you live on, right?
That's great.
Which is really funny since I don't drink beer, but I remembered cerveza.
I know tequila.
But yeah, after I started working with a large group of Hispanic people, they started teaching me words and phrases, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed them teaching me new stuff every day. So it was kind of cool. But at the same time, I'm always going to have animals. I'm always going to want to talk to them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it then.
Yeah, that's it for this episode. You want to sign
us off, Amy?
All right. As a reminder, we are asking that if you like what we're doing here, you give us 5 stars. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. And email us with any topic ideas. Ginny and Amy, that's GINNY and AND, AMY podcast @gmail.com. And Ginny, where can they find us again?
You guys can find us on Instagram at Bitch and Siblings Podcast. Please send us messages, like our photos, give us suggestions, all that kind of fun stuff. We are still new to this, so we're open to any and all suggestions you guys have.
All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you for next week's episode.
Yeah, talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.